Carrie Steele Logan was a resourceful, enterprising, and compassionate woman who used her $100 a month salary as a stewardess for the Central Railroad to become one of the first black landowners in Atlanta.
Miss Carrie Steele was an emancipated slave who moved to Atlanta during Reconstruction. She was born in Macon. Once she came to Atlanta, she became employed at the Georgia Terminal Railroad Station. At the railroad station, she was a maid, and during her duties, she found many abandoned children in downtown Atlanta.
Every day, she saw a lot of children sort of in and out of the city. That was a time period where things were very much in flux still in Atlanta. It was post-Reconstruction, so this is 1880s, early 1880s. And she wanted to help take care of the children. There were a lot of children who were sort of on their own.
Carrie Steele soon realized that her house was too small for the growing number of children she brought home. Having learned to read and write as a slave, she authored an autobiography and sold copies in the street to raise money for a larger facility.
Of course, Carrie Steele wanted more. She really wanted these abandoned and orphaned children to thrive. So she sold her home and she erected the first Carrie Steele Orphan Home.
So she chartered the orphanage in 1888. The best date we have for her birth was about 1829. So she was not necessarily a young woman when she started this enterprise, but she felt it was a mission.
I remember the first day that I went to the Carrie Steele Pitts home, and I realized that there was something different about this home. It wasn't so much that they had a particular method in which they cared for kids, it was the culture.
Because of her own experience during slavery, her mother died when she was very young, according to the information that we have about her. And so she was very concerned about the welfare of children.
The orphanage was dedicated in 1892. Built at a cost of $5,000, all of which had been raised through her efforts, it is the oldest black orphanage in the nation.
She rallied the community. She made sure that she had support from the community, but she also made sure that within the charter of the home, that she set us off into just a solid foundation of what is important for children. She put in the charter that the children know how to care for themselves, how to care for others, how to work, have a very strong work ethic, to get the best education that the children could get, and to make sure that the children had a strong faith as well. And in the 125 years that the home has been in operation, we've never deviated from that.
It's still around today, 125 years later, and it has served 20,000 plus, I think is the number of children that have been served there. Carrie Steele was considered an early social worker. Again, there was not any place to put young juvenile offenders during that time who were African American, and they were often sent to the same jails or prison or the stockade at that point.
Her service as a volunteer probation officer reinforced her belief that orphans often fall prey to a life of crime. So Miss Steele planned to prepare her children for adulthood, not just provide for their basic needs.
One of the things that is essential in raising children, of course, is stability in the people that are caring for the children. So we do regard ourselves all as substitute parents for the children. Whether a child is here a short period of time or a long period of time, we're going to advocate for them, that we're going to look for a long-term vision for the children to make sure that we're doing everything possible to move the child forward.
It is amazing, and that a woman of very little education, a woman that only because of her great heart that she was able to reach out and serve these children in the community, and because of her great heart, be able to attract people in the community to support the vision that she had to serve these children.
So that was initially her plan as well, to offer them a home-like environment where they would not be subject to getting into additional trouble. So she did take on troubled young African Americans during that time as well.
Carrie Steele married Josiah Logan from New York in 1890. But very little other information about her life survives, including the autobiography that she sold to help pay for her project.
Miss Pitts was very wise to make sure that she groomed her daughter. So somebody that really grew up around the home, knew the children, was probably involved in all of the activities with the children. And then Miss Pitts became director up until 1976.
She chose a great leader to succeed her, a leader that served decades, just like every leader that has come after Carrie Steele Pitts have served decades. I mean, they've only had 4 directors in the history of their agency. That is incredible.
But one of the beautiful histories of the home is that there was a young child that was placed in the home in 1932 when Miss Pitts was director, and Miss Yates was very much involved in the home. And this is Olivet Allison. And under the love of Miss Pitts and Miss Yates, Miss Allison was able to grow up and to go to college, and came back in 1950 as the first social worker here at Carrie Steele Pitts home, and then became director in 1976 after Miss Yates was unable to continue on because of poor health.
Today, the Carrie Steele Pitts home still serves hundreds of neglected, abused, abandoned, or orphaned children. In its 3rd location on Fairburn Road, it consists of 4 cottages and a building which houses offices and dining facilities.
Today, the children come to us after a long history of abuse, neglect, or abandonment. All of the children that we serve today are in the foster care system. So the state, the Department of Family and Children's Services, had to intervene with these families after everything was done to try to keep the family units together.
Many agencies depend on methodologies to serve children. And I'm not saying those are not effective, but we know the most powerful thing that we can give kids is love kids and to nurture kids and to give our hearts to kids. That's what I found at the Carrie Steele Pitts home.
For Carrie Steele Pitts home, we always are looking well into the future. We want to remain true to the history of the home, but always evolving and adapting to the needs of children today.
Carrie Steele Logan is buried in Oakland Cemetery in Atlanta. Her gravestone is inscribed, "The Mother of Orphans. She has done what she could."
It's very difficult to do the work that she did in the time that she did it, and it was not always easy for her. And she talked about being in despair when she felt she wasn't doing enough. But ultimately, according to her gravestone, she hath done what she could. And certainly she's an example of doing as much as she could, and perhaps even more than she had anticipated she could accomplish for herself.